Battlefield 1, the game that had the most epic reveal trailer and one of the most interesting time settings for a Battlefield game. At the time, the game was seen as lackluster and boring, but it is now held in very high regard and is seen as one of the best Battlefield games of recent years. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is BFViking and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the previous Battlefield title, being Battlefield 1, which had a rough start just like Battlefield 5, but quickly managed to save itself and become one of, if not the best Battlefield games in recent years. And in today's video, we are going to be seeing why it is such a good game and what DICE did in those months following the game's launch that made people love it so damn much. So, without any further ado, let's jump right into this. So, as I said in the beginning, Battlefield 1 did have a rough start. It wasn't a problem of bugs or glitches or any of that sort of stuff, but rather the weeks after launch, people started getting bored of the game very quickly. There was very little weapon selection, and the game lacked customization, and it had very little gadgets and even a less map to choose from, which left people kind of scratching their heads and wondering, what do we do now? After an entire 6 months of waiting with no new content for the game, which did leave the servers pretty empty, we finally got the very first DLC for Battlefield 1, and that was They Shall Not Pass, based on the French, bringing new French maps, weapons, and the French faction themselves. And this is where Battlefield 1 started to become what I call the perfect Battlefield game. Once the first DLC for Battlefield 1 had released, we then started seeing a steady flow of new and fresh content coming to the game on a regular basis. Note the word regular in there. In March we got the French DLC, then in June we started seeing our first look at the Russian DLC, which would eventually launch in September of 2017, and in the months following, a steady flow of fresh, innovative and exciting content would be released for this game, and people just wanted more and more of it as they loved what they were getting. And this is something that Battlefield 5 has failed on massively. I mean, 7 months between maps, and then 2 days before a map is supposed to be released, it gets delayed for the most popular game mode. I really just don't see why people still want to play that game. But anyways, back to the point. One of the first points I want to make here is that Battlefield 1 was innovative. We just come from 3 modern day based games, and a World War I game with the Frostbite engine definitely sounded like a much needed change to the franchise. Not only was the setting innovative, but we had so many new innovative, I'm saying that word too much, so many new exciting features that put a huge spin on Battlefield as we knew it. We had a change in the classes. We no longer had the engineer, but instead the assault and the medic. We got brand new sniping mechanics, which in my opinion are the best in the entire franchise. Everything was just so rewarding with them. And we also got things like the new behemoths, which I really enjoyed. I know some people think they were kind of wacky, but I personally liked using them quite a lot. Then we got the brand new elite classes, which were honestly one of the coolest additions to the Battlefield franchise, as they made a pretty big impact and important change to the gameplay. If you've seen a flame trooper in an alleyway, you sure as hell weren't going there, or if you were flying a plane, you would try to avoid the tank hunter at all costs. Overall, one of my favorite features implemented with Battlefield 1. We also got one of the best game modes ever in a Battlefield game, being Grand Operations, which again was another huge change to Battlefield as a whole, and in my opinion, that was one of the most immersive game modes I have ever played, and it's a pity that DICE has ruined it with Battlefield 5. And I could honestly go on with the new things that DICE brought into Battlefield 1, but I would be going on for quite some time. Overall, Battlefield 1 was a massive change to the franchise as a whole, and it made everybody, well, most people, very happy. So now on to my next point, being the communication between DICE and the community. This was absolutely phenomenal in Battlefield 1. The devs at DICE were always tweeting out the fixes and changes they are making to the game, and then in just a few short hours, we were able to test out these new changes in the Battlefield 1 CTE, which let us decide, the community, what we wanted to be added to the game and what we thought would make it better, and this is something that Battlefield 5 is really lacking on. Anyways, we were able to try out new maps, weapons, and made the game far better than it would have been without the CTE, as we could give DICE direct feedback without actually affecting the vanilla game, which certainly gave DICE a lot more freedom and overall made Battlefield 1 a far better game. Not to mention, we also got the Incursions mode, which was essentially the competitive mode for BF1, which unfortunately never really took off, but it was yet another way to play the game, and a lot of people really enjoyed it, myself included. As I covered earlier in the video, the flow of content for this game was honestly just amazing once it kicked off. We were getting new and interesting assignments every day. Every 1 or 2 weeks we'd be getting loads of new different skins for different weapons through the battle pack revisions, and plus we'd be getting loads of little other additions like versions of maps but at nighttime, and also new features like the platoon feature, which was basically just like clans from Call of Duty. But stuff like this filled the gap between DLCs, which honestly just kept us occupied for a very long time. But boy oh boy, once those DLCs did come, they sure as hell brought a load of new content. We get 4 or even 6 maps in just one DLC, plus shit tons of weapons, assignments, vehicles, gadgets, and honestly, this game just had you always looking forward to something new. Each DLC had a different theme, like a naval theme or an Eastern Front theme, which really built up BF1 and provided it with a massive selection of content to choose from. Another thing that we could really sink our teeth into was the codex feature for all of the weapons in the game, which is basically just like mastering a weapon, but different. You could get a standard codex just by getting 10 kills with a weapon, which would then give you the standard codex, and then by getting 500 kills with a weapon, you would then get the elite codex, which gave you a super detailed background on the weapon. And I just gotta give some huge props to the poor bastard who had to type all of these things out. That's like at least 7 hours typing. Anyways, this yet again gave us something else to work towards and was just a really nice additional feature. Battlefield 1 was a game that you would actually be excited to get home after school or work, hop on, kill some Kaiser trooping with the boys, and that is a feeling that you just don't get in Battlefield 5 in its current state. Something I noticed a few days ago, me and the epic gamer himself, Teabag, were slaying some noobs on BF1, and we were actually talking and caring about the game, communicating about what was happening. We were calling out enemy positions to each other, asking each other for ammo and heals, and actually caring about what happened in the match, whereas in BF5, the gameplay just does not have that gripping effect that BF1 does. We usually just talk about some general shit and the match doesn't really matter at all, and I think that the main reason for this is the next point I am about to make. The last note I want to make here is the vibe and ambience that Battlefield 1 had. It felt like a war game. It felt like what it was supposed to feel like. You could always hear cannons or voices or tanks moving in the background, even on an empty server. That just shows how good DICE's attention to detail can be. And overall, I just got a really good vibe from Battlefield 1. There was no better feeling than rushing into the enemy trenches while chasing after them with a bayonet. Said no one in 1918 ever, and hearing the epic Attacker Advance music playing in the background, I was just immersed, I was just intrigued, and most importantly, I was having fun. Guys, let me know what you thought of BF1 down in the comments. If you thought it was a good Battlefield game, make sure to smash that like button, and also go ahead and follow me on Twitter, as that is where you guys get all of the updates on my most recent videos. But anyways guys, I'm off to play some Battlefield 1, you should too, but for now, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next Battlefield video.